Hey, what's going on? Today I want to talk about a little sound design technique that's pretty basic in principle, but it can yield an enormous variety of sounds. The technique in question is the repeated randomization of devices. Now, I've got my hand cam or whatever here because I'm going to be doing some keyboard shortcuts. I'm also cracking my knuckles. All right, so first I'd like to introduce one of the dumbest little devices included with Ableton. This is DS Snare. This little shitter right here. This little stupid thing is an instrument that produces some of the most underwhelming sounds I've ever heard. So I'm going to try to extract something useful out of it. Sounds like this. It's made for like analog-ish sounding snares. So the first thing I want to do is to put this in a rack. So I'm going to hit Control G, which is going to rack it. I don't know if that's the right term, but it's going to put it into a rack. And then I'm going to expand this menu, which is going to show some macros. Now, these are unmapped, so I'm going to have to map each one of these parameters in the device to a macro. I can do that by just right-clicking on it and mapping it to macro 1, or by hitting this map button down here, clicking on a parameter like that, and then hitting map. But the more efficient way is to just do it like that. So now we've got all of these parameters mapped. And now when I hit these, I can control it like that. Pretty basic. And I can also hit the random button like this. So you see this button up here? Since the DS Snare has so few parameters, we can rack it and randomize each of the parameters and get some somewhat diverse sounds out of it. One small problem with this is that the volume is also being randomized. So, and that can create sometimes it'll be really quiet, like negative 33 decibels. Nobody wants that. So I can just double click on it to reset the parameter and then exclude it for randomization in this menu by right clicking on the parameter. So now every time I randomize it like that, the volume is not going to be affected. But it's still kind of tedious to manually click on this randomize button every time I want to randomize the parameters. And there is a way to get around this. It's to either MIDI map the randomize button or to key map the randomize button. If I key map it, I can trigger the randomization with a custom keybind, right? But if I MIDI map it, I can trigger the randomization with a custom MIDI input. I prefer to key map it. So I'm going to press Control K, click on the button that I want to key map, and then hit the key that I want to map it to, which in this case is R, and then press Control K again to exit out of key map mode. So now when I press R, the randomize button will be triggered. And now because I've done this, I only really need to press two buttons at the same time because I have the computer keyboard enabled, which means if I just drag in like an operator in real quick, I can play MIDI. Those are my keyboard without having to use a MIDI controller, which is pretty handy. So now E and R are right next to each other. So if I press both of them at the same time, nothing happens because it didn't arm the track. I can get a different note every time, a different sound every time I hit these two buttons at the same time, which is pretty handy. But now, what if I wanted to get an even larger range of sounds? Well, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking. I can use more effects. And this is where it gets really fun. So I can kind of just like think up on the spot what effects I want to use. I think I'll use maybe drum bus and silo, which is a VST effect. Now, most of these I've already made racks for just because it's, I don't know, so that I can easily do this. So I'll type in drum bus macros, which is what the naming scheme that I use, and I'll key map this to R as I did before, and I'll do silo macros. And once again, key map that to R. So now whenever I press E and R at the same time, we're already getting an insane diversity of sounds just from this little shitter DS Snare right here. Now, what if I want to do more with this? What if I add in maybe multi-band dynamics and Rift maybe, which is a distortion. Now, I think I'm going to probably turn off the delay in Rift because Rift has like a feedback setting that I want to avoid. So I'll turn that off. And now it sounds like this. So that can get out of hand pretty quickly. And it's so much fun because it has the possibility to produce such a huge variety of sounds. And then, like, as you ramp up the number of devices involved, it just gets crazier and crazier. That's all I really have to say about this. Obviously, there's so much more to explore with this concept, but how about you close YouTube, close your browser, close Chrome, whatever. If you're using Chrome, maybe you're using Brave or Firefox, whatever. That's fucking tangent. And open up Ableton and create something, have fun. Do something that's not this. So I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. All right. Well, if you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, maybe consider subscribing or checking out some of my other videos. Yeah, you could also listen to some of my music. I recently released an album about a month ago that I'm very happy with, and I think if you listen, you might enjoy it. Also got a Discord server if you're interested in joining that. As always, the outro music was made using the technique that I was talking about in the video. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good one.